But the first thing I wanted to talk about for just a moment was what happened this week. And I was watching some of the priests and Cardinal O'Connor and some of the others, that the families had come to him and that people were killed in this plane explosion, you know. And he said the people were saying, why does God let something like this happen? And this is what he was saying. See? And those of you who think differently about these things, place yourself in the position of this thing you call God. And then ask the question back down to here. Why are you people doing this to one another? What's the matter with you? You see, and then if you have a plane and you have this explosion, you have psychologically, and in psychological tests that they do, you have the question why. And you'd be surprised you find answers as a result of that. So you say, why did the plane, what happened? You say, well, it looks like a bomb blew it up. That's not why. That is not why. That bomb did not wait in line to get a ticket. That bomb did not walk or drive itself to the airport. That's not why the plane was hurt like that. And of course, if it was a bomb, which appears at some kind of explosion, there's several reasons. You can have a person on there who wanted to commit suicide, and you could have a mentally disabled person that did that. You could have a person who placed it in somebody else's luggage to collect insurance and do something like that. Well, you could have terrorists. You could have that. And so all of these things would address themselves to why. Of course, we're in church, and so what I thought was interesting is I saw all these people were getting counseling from religious people. The very reason for these types of things is religious people. The reason buildings blow up and all of these types of things is religious people. So you can, if you don't want to think of it in this particular context, think of the plane in Lockerbie, Scotland. Why is it blown up? Because there was a group that didn't like our group. See, you have to understand, the bomb itself, the plastic, doesn't know anything about this. The bomb had nothing to do with it. It wasn't even a bomb. It was a thought, which is a cause, was made and became an effect and became a bomb. See? But in Scotland, if it's the same as you have here, what do you have here? You have groups. You were part of a group. You were raised in a group. And the first thing, or the thing that you were taught in your group, was that your group was right and the other group was wrong. Say, my group is right and the other group is wrong. See, there was a time. Let's take like the Muslim or the Arab group, and we'll take the Christian or the Jewish group. There was a oneness there up to the time of Abraham. Everybody was thinking the same way. Everything was fine. There was no problem. But then something was introduced into the cultures. And this group that we belong to adopted a policy, which you'll see in this book, that says God told us that we should take their land away from them. See? Now, we have a choice. We could read the book and say, gee, I don't think God would tell you to go in there and murder little children and rape women and do all of these things that God tells you in here and take all of their land and take everything. But we decided we were going to join with this group. See, and this group is the one that lost all of its land and lost all of its cities and had all of this spell. So this group became hateful to these who took their land away, saying, God told us to do this. See, don't forget, it was theirs. This group came along and took it away and said, God said to do it. You always justify what you do when you say, God told me to do it. It's like the devil made me do it. God made me do it. Right. So you justify taking their land away from them, and then they get ticked. There's another word you use, but I won't use it this morning, but they really get mad. And so not only does this happen, where you have the Jewish group, which is taking the land away from the Arab group, when they did, and subjecting their people to a lot of heartaches and so forth and so on. But now you have a situation where you have a hate between these two groups. This one's saying it's justified to have this one's saying it's not, and so they hate each other, they're fighting with each other, and they're killing each other, and all of these things are happening, and they're blowing each other. They've been doing this for thousands of years. But now your group decides to take sides. And your group has decided to take sides with this group. And so we're all in this together. In fact, we call it the Judeo-Christian ethic, or Judeo-Christian. So we're in this together. We even send, like the good groups, the people like of Africa and the people, the Indians, that are harmonizing with nature and really know what God is. We send our groups go over there to change them. Say, oh, you shouldn't do this. You should be like us. We don't tell them that us are evil. You know, that half of our kids are whacked out on pot and all this. We don't tell them this. And we've caused it. It's not that, you know, it's like the bomb. People don't become drug addicts because, well, there's nothing else. I think they become a drug addict. They become drug addicts because of the system that they live in and the irrelevance of their systems and their religions. So we joined this group, and now not only is this group a target because of the things they've done, we are a target. Right. I know when I was a kid and went to church, I was told never go into never go into their church. You'll lose your sanctity or you'll lose your salvation if you go into their church. Don't ever do that, you know. And so now what you have here is this terrible thing. So you bring it all the way down to why, and you say the reason that plane blew up, if this is the cause, is because of a hate between these two groups. And he said, well, why do they hate each other? Because one group said that their God told them to take the other group's homes away. It was just like you. How would you feel if somebody came to your property and threw you and your family out and took your house and moved in? And you say, well, you can't take my house. You're not allowed to do that. That's not, oh, yes, God told me to do that. It's okay. I was told by God to do this, so don't worry about it. Everything is fine. Look, it's in my book. Just happens to be in the book. Well, they have a book, too, and they have a book called the Koran. And their book doesn't say that. And their book's from God, too. Oh, what happened? So we made our God, and we made our God called Jehovah. And our God said, get the land from the Arabs. Here, take the sword, and take the Arabs' land, and kill everybody, and kill their children. It's in your book. Your leader, Moses. He said, when you go in, take all the little boys and kill them. It's in the book. The little boy children, it said. And the little girl children who have lied with a man, kill them. But the little girl children who are virgins, take them for yourself. That's your traditional family. It's in your book. You want to get back to the traditional family, it's in the Bible. I have Bible teaching in school. There it is. It's in the book. I mean, I'll show you. Black and white's in there. So Jehovah says, charge! Now these guys on the other side, here they come. What are we going to do? Let's make a God. So here you've taken all of their land and you've subjected them to all of this hell, and then you turn around and they construct a God called Allah. And you say, Allah, what do you want us to do? And Allah says, I want you to get the damn land back. Charge! And it's happened ever since. Now the point is, your groups, which are called Christians, have joined with this group and ticked off this group. So now you get blown up with them. Do you understand that? And when you get blown up with them, who do you call to give you counseling? They! The group that's responsible for the whole thing. The group that created the Judeo-Christian ethic, the traditional concepts of our religious foundation, our biblical, you call them, and they're going to figure everything out for you. I don't think so. The cause of the problem is now going to soothe you. And it's a horrible thing. And how do you explain this? And everybody's obviously would get terribly irritated at the horror of this thing. But you know, when you have one person whose family you have killed, and they turn around and they kill your family, then you open your own book and it says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That's what it says. So, what's the story? The story is that the evil is not the bomb. The evil isn't even the person that created the bomb. The evil is the religion that has motivated the hate between people who would do that to each other. And the sooner that that evil called religion is destroyed and left away from us, then we can start understanding people as human beings. Things will start to be okay. Never, as long as you have religion that says one group is better than the other, or one group should take with the other, or one group is saved and the other group is lost. Never, as long as that occurs, will you have peace on this planet. And then never, as long as you are a member of any group, will you ever find peace. You'll never find peace until you become an individual and you stand alone and find it within yourself. Now, you want to say, I want to put things a little bit in perspective for you. Who are you? Your group, your religious group, has told you you're the center of the universe. All right? I want to give you a picture of your home so you can put things a little bit into perspective. You were taught, early Christianity said the whole world revolves around the planet Earth. Everything is part of the planet. I'm going to show you part of the galaxy, universe, Milky Way galaxy. I'm going to show you a picture of it. And if you take a look at it, it puts a little bit of perspective as to what you really are. How important are you really? Okay? And if somebody would, when we get done with that, Ethel, when you get done with that, would you show the people on TV after, when we start talking about it, okay? All right? Just throw them down, let them sort them out, just because I want to get this done quick because we're running down. Time is running out. All right? But if you take a look at this, do you know what that's a picture? That's not even a picture of the Earth. That's a picture of the sun. The Earth is some little pimple somewhere on the other side of it somewhere. You know what you are? You are a pimple on the rear end of the Milky Way. And every once in a while somebody scratches you. That's it. You have a hard time trying to figure out if there are people on other planets. Will you take a look at all the little white dots there? What's the chances? You can't even see your dot. It's so insignificant. That where it says you are here is a picture of the sun. And you know how many quadrillions of them there are? And that's not even a very big one. You can look and see some really big ones if you look around. But take a look at any of those little dots. And it puts you a little bit in a perspective. I wanted to read this on TV because I got this card from a young or lady, I don't know if it was young or older. Her name is Georgine Walter from Selma, Oregon. She says, keep up the good work. When I was 9 years old, she says, I gazed into the universe and knew in a glance what you are now broadcasting. At that time, I had no words to express the fullness of what the vision was, but as I grew older, I began to speak of the truth. I saw that as big as it all is as small as it all is. It's all the same pattern. In other words, we are in the body of God, and the stars are His cells. As the same in us, each cell in us is a star in the universe of God. We are the God of our body of stars. Isn't that nice? All right, just hold this out so I'll make a shot. And that's what this is all about. So when we start finding these galaxies and so forth and so on, and they're making these discoveries, remember the Bible said that all of this was going to happen. And now it's happening. And all of the wonders are being discovered by scientists and astronomers, and your religious people don't know anything about it. Let me show you what was it. We talked about quantum physics here for a while, remember? Let me tell you what happened last week at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, Boulder, Colorado. They bombarded a charged atom. And so this single electron began to go clockwise and counterclockwise, however you do that, at the same time. In other words, the thing was spinning in two different directions at the same time. And they separated the two states of the electron, and the result was a pair of what they say ghostly dervishes whirling side by side in opposite directions. Totally independent of each other, yet if they stopped one, the other one stopped. And if they got the other one to spin in the other direction, the other one would stop and go in the other direction. And they said it's like two bulbs, one that's on and one that's off. If you make one go opposite, the other goes, because even though they are two, they are one. They are the same. And basically, this is the magnificent thing. When you start getting into religious people who don't know these things, and they talk about body and soul, but once you get them out and you start talking about matter and energy, then you can define it. Then you say, gee, this does work. I understand how this works. So we're learning then to make a contact. If you look at that, I get people talking, they say, well, you talk about E.T. and extraterrestrials and UFOs, because it's in the Bible. But how can you look at that thing and not? How can you look at that thing in your hand and say, we are the only living thing in here? And you can't even find the little pimple that you are. Just like a little bit of acne on the rear end of the... Do they have acne on rear ends of... And so you come into places and you go into meditation. And you start to try to, because you're making contact. You're opening yourself in an age where the receptors of the right hemisphere of the brain, and music does it. Pythagoras knew it. Music stimulates receptors at the right side of your brain. Yeah, music, you can see it. I was watching a concert the other night. I was with Peter Gabriel. I watched Peter Gabriel, but I was watching a Peter Gabriel concert, and everybody was up with their cigarette lighters, and they're all waving their cigarette lighters back and forth. Why do they do that? Why do they do that? Because there's something inside that has been stimulated by the sound. Sound stimulates receptors in your brain. Buddha taught that. Pythagoras taught that. So when you hear these sounds, different receptors, when you come in with a purpose and a direction to meditate and to raise yourself to a higher level of consciousness and use these special sounds that stimulate the receptors in your brain, and they lift you up. Oh, you never knew any of these things. Half of you sitting here, you don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Because nobody's ever told you. Nobody's ever shared any of this stuff with. But it says in the Bible in Ephesians 5:14, wake up, that you that sleep. Wake up from the dead. Come to life. Start to understand. You got teachers in school that have no idea of this stuff. You got ministers and priests that I can tell you have no idea of this stuff. And yet it's all happening in the sky right over your head. But the scientists know about it. And the astronomers know about it. And they're all seeing these marvelous things happen that have never happened before in the history of the world. And nobody's even bothered to tell you. So you begin to consider a race of people. I've told you that in the Bible it talks about nuclear fission 6,000 years ago. It talks about the speed of light 6,000 years ago. It talks about the construction of your brain 6,000 years ago. It talks about the pineal gland 6,000 years ago. How come? Because this was written by a race of people who are 6,000 years advanced ahead of you, who live on one of those dots there. And I can tell you exactly, if you want to find the particular dot, look at 4555. It's a pretty good shot that you'll find it there. And I gave you the coordinates of it a couple of weeks ago. It shows you exactly where it is. And the Egyptian Coptic said Jesus revealed that to them thousands of years ago. Debbie Sylvia got on the phone, called up the planetarium, Motion County College, and found out about it. And then Joni Schultz downloaded it, and I gave you a copy. So it's laying back there. NGC 4555 is a galaxy. It's a galaxy. So now you've come to a place I've told you about God. I've told you where he lives. What you want? What else do you want? I don't know if I can believe that. Who asked you whether you can believe it or not? There's nothing I can say to you say I could believe it. What I'm saying to you is this number was given 3,000 years ago. It's in a mystical book in Egypt. 4555 is the location. And now 1996, 4555 turns out to be a galaxy. And where is it? In Virgo, the Virgin. So now you know what it means, born of a virgin. Sure, you'll find a virgin shall conceive. What are you talking about? Because this group, this intelligence is located there. I mean, when you look in the Bible and you see things talking about, extraterrestrials or UFOs or whatever is described by Ezekiel as fiery chariots, and they describe them as lightning and fiery chariots and cherubim. How would you describe, if you were thousands of years ago and you only could use the language of the people, then how could you describe your television set? Well, I have a box, and the box sits on a table, and there's a hole in the front of the box. And out of the hole there comes people and horses and flying serpents and dogs, and I see colors and voices coming from the hole in the box. Some of you, well, I think it's coming from the hole in your head, you know. Who can understand you? Could anybody understand? Could you hold a discussion about the things that we know scientifically with people from thousands of years ago? Of course not. Now, could the people who are living on one of those dots there who are 6,000 years ahead of you, can they hold a discussion with you? I was up at a meeting. We see Doyle next time. He's going to, because he tells everybody this. I was at a meeting in Spring Lake the other day at, you know, my company. And these are all technical, and they're talking about being on the cutting edge of technology. And so I started to tell my boss this. I said, Mike, you're not on the cutting edge of technology. You're a caveman. So everywhere we went up and down the place, he's saying, hey, he called me a caveman. He's calling me a cave. Because why? Because we think what we know, what we've accumulated in knowledge, we've accumulated over the last 75 to 100 years. Before that, the entire earth was a blur. Nobody knew anything. I can show you things about the stars where people were burned at the stake because they talked about the stars or something, and these people thought, oh, they're going to come and people are going to come and get us and all of these. We were so, you know, we don't know nothing about this stuff. Then John 16:12, Jesus says, I have many things to tell you, but you couldn't bear to hear it. If I told you half of the stuff that I would like to tell you, you'd run me out of here right now. You couldn't deal with this stuff. Because why? Because you're not ready. You haven't evolved to the point. You couldn't deal with this kind of stuff. And so how do we find out? We enter this world of mysticism. The word mystic in Greek, you know what the word mystic in Greek means? Be silent. It means to be still. And in Matthew 6 it says, take no thought. In Exodus it tells you to stand still. Be still. Keep quiet. And to enter into meditation. Enter into meditation. Lao Tzu, who was a Chinese mystic, said, those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. And I love Plato. Do you ever read Plato? Oh, I wouldn't read Plato. I've been to Disneyland and I've seen Plato, but I mean, I don't know anything about Plato. That's Pluto. Plato wrote a letter, and I'll quote you from Plato's 7th letter. Matters of ultimate concern are best not discussed in writing, but after a period of study, true insight, like a blaze kindled by a leaping spark, is generated in your soul and at once becomes self-sustaining. In other words, at first this is confusing, but when you meditate on it and you begin to then think about it and you begin to study it, then these things become enlightenment. You begin to understand. You understand what your parents haven't a clue about. They don't know anything about this. And your parents, I mean, they can't deal with anything like this because their minds are made up. They've reached a conclusion. And as the Bhagavan said, when you've reached a conclusion, your journey is concluded. That's it. Could I go into any of these churches and talk about this stuff? Not a chance. Not a chance. And it's not a question of them disagreeing. They won't even listen. And the reason that people will not listen when you tell them something is because maybe you're telling the truth and it's going to upset all of their security. And it's going to upset the control that they have over people. And it's going to upset the hate that you have. You should be able to go to Iraq and Iran and all of these places on vacation. They're nice people. They're great people. But religion that they have and the religion that we have make us demons to one another. The only thing that makes us hate one another is religion. If there was no religion, it's like John Lennon said. The only thing, if there was no religion, then we wouldn't be hating one another. Their religion says we're the devil. Their religion says they're pagans and they're the devil, and so forth and so on. And so we hate each other. And so then we start to look and we start to seek, but we have to seek outside of religion. We have to start understanding things. You have to start to understand the books that you receive, that you call them Bibles. But you've got to extend yourself beyond the superstition. And you've got to extend yourself beyond sitting in some church and some guy with a robe telling you all of these things that he has no idea. He learned them in some school, and they learned them in some school, and all of it came out of the dark ages of Europe. But that's no good anymore. You live in a real world. You go out in the backyard, and there's a universe there. Don't you want to know about it? It means things. It has an impact on the way you feel. It has an impact on the way you act. It has an impact on your body. It has an impact on the ocean. It has an impact on a woman's cycle. It has an impact on everything. And you don't pay any bit of attention to it. So we listen to churches. Talk about the science of numbers. If you get to the science of numbers, you'll eventually bring it to E.T. If you're willing to listen. Pythagoras learned the essence of gods is defined by number. And actually the word gods in Greek means extraterrestrial. What else is it? What is God? You shouldn't be talking about extraterrestrial. What the heck is extraterrestrial? What do you say? God lives on a planet. So what is he? He's E.T. The Greek Gnostics taught about Abraxas. Have you ever read the story of Abraxas? Read about Abraxas. It's not going to be boring to you. Abraxas is a ruler of the sun, the universe. Well, the key is contained in the fact that in Greek, every letter has a value, has a numerical value. See? And once you understand the numerical value, you get away from the story and you go into the scientific truth of it. The numerical value of the word Abraxas is 365. And then there's Mithra. Mithra was Jesus' twin, born of a virgin, crucified, resurrected at the spring equinox. The king killed the whole bit. The only difference between Mithra and Jesus is that Mithra, you were saved by the blood of the bull. Jesus were saved by the blood of the lamb, because this was in Taurus and this was in Aries. The numerical value of the word Mithra is 365. Because once again, it's the sun god. So the solar year. Who is the twin of Jesus? Now Jesus has a value that is, you want to talk about the second coming of Jesus, and we've talked about it in Pegasus, and we've talked about it in all this, as a sun star. Turn on your radio and listen. And every time they tell you to make a long distance call now, they'll say to use his number. Because the number of Jesus is 888. And that's the number, that's the new number that crop circles and so forth and so on, and all of these things. And now the number 888, which is the number of Jesus, is the new number. The international number for dialing long distance is 888. Why? Why not 887? Why not 333? Why not 745? Why is that 888? It's like ohm. Ohm is the word for thousands of years they've used to chant as the electrical energy moved up the chakras through the resistors. And the measurement of electrical resistance is ohm. Why? And all of these things are arranged for you to find out. All of these things are arranged for you to come to grips with, to understand. So we have names of people that are mathematical codes to reveal things to you. You know what Jesus was called by the ancients? He was called the plentiful of Ogdoads. The plentiful of O-G-D-O-A-D-S. The plentiful of Ogdoads. You know what the word Ogdoads means? 8. 8. In other words, he was called the fullness of eights. The fullness of eights. And Irenaeus, the church father, said Jesus' name is an arithmetic symbol known by those who are called. You ought to write that. Irenaeus was a religious guy, one of the church fathers, who said the name Jesus is actually an arithmetic number known by those who are called. Do you know many of you know it? Many of you know it. Now, Jesus was called the fullness of eight because his number is 888. And this is revealed when Jesus is baptized. What happens? A dove comes down, right? Go to page 779 for just a minute. Page 779, Matthew 3, verse 16. Real quick. Okay? He's baptized. And it says, and Jesus, when he baptized, went up straightway, and lo, the heavens were opened, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove. That's important. The dove is very, very important. The name Jesus, is this hard for you? And I know it's the hardest thing in the world. I know, but this is where you've got to go if you're ever going to break from this mob that blows each other up, okay? The hardest thing for you to know is that this was never a person. That this is much more than a person. It is everything. Okay? And once you dwell on it as a person, you miss this. And when you miss this, then you've missed yourself. You've missed life. This is how, in the Greek alphabet, and this is where this came from. I'm going to put this. Did I drop a? Yeah. Oh, I guess not. But anyhow, in the Greek alphabet, you have the fullness of 8s. The alphabet, every letter has a number. And it's broken into 3 lines. You have the 800, 700, 600, 500, 400, 300, 200, 100. Okay? Those letters that are part of that have a value. This letter will have a value of 800, and so forth and so on. The second quadrant is 2 digits, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. Okay? The last is 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right? So that's the Greek alphabet, and that's how all. Now, if you see, if he is the fullness of the gospel, he's the fullness of everything, he's the fullness, is 8, 8, 8. All right? That's who he is, and that's who Jesus. He is everything. He is everything. Now, how many of you know what the number of consciousness is? 800, 1500, 2100, 2600, 3000, 3300, 3500, 3600. No problems? 80, 150, 210, 260, 300, 330, 320, 330. Okay? No problem. 8, 15, 21, 26, 30, 33, 35, 36. 6. 6. This one should be 360? Let's do it again. 80, 150, 210, 260, 300, 330, 350, 360. I'm sorry. Oh, I don't know, don't tell me I screwed this up. 6, 9, 9, 3. 3 plus 9 is 12, plus 9 is 21, plus 6 is 27, equals 9. Now, here we have that Jesus is the Alpha and the Omega, right? Watch me. 800, Alpha is 1. Okay? Alpha is 1. Omega is 800. All right? Now, if you look in, what did you just see? And he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove. I'm going to spell out the word in Greek for you of dove. Dove is like this. Okay? That's the Greek word for dove. The numerical value of the Greek word for dove is 801. He is the Alpha and the Omega. And that's why the dove was used. The beginning and the end. The beginning of the end is the first letter in the Greek alphabet and the last letter in the Greek alphabet. So that's where it is. That's where it comes at. 888 is the Logos. All that is. All that is. I am Alpha and Omega. If you look at Revelation chapter 1, verse 11, it says, I am Alpha and Omega. I am the beginning and the end. And 888, which is the universe. 888, which is the sun. 888, which is you within inside of your body, like this lady from Oregon tried to tell you, the universe within you. When 888 raises itself out of the depths of the waters of the lower body and raises itself up into the air of the third stage of consciousness, it is touched by the dove, which is the all-encompassing beginning and the end. Alpha and Omega. Everything complete, full, Total. Because why? We have given ourselves to the water, which is the truth of the second stage. We have raised ourselves up into that which is the air with the third stage. And we are touched by the dove. We are touched by the fullness. We are touched by the completeness of the 801, which is the dove. And we become the 888, which is the fullness of the Son of the universe. Friends, that's where all of this stuff came from. And your parents and their parents and their parents have gone to church all of their lives, and nobody ever told them a thing. Not having a clue. So if you're going to understand that, then you've got to go one step beyond this and correct it. And if I'm telling you something that's wrong, tell me. If I'm telling you something that's not true, stand up. But it is. And you can go into any library, you can go into any college or whatever, and that's it. This was the classical Greek alphabet. In Greek, and since that time, they've added a couple of letters that they don't count in the numerical makeup to, for conversation purposes. But this is the classical Greek alphabet, and this is how it worked, and that's how it's 888, and that's what Jesus is. And if you add up in Greek the letters in the name Jesus, it comes out to 888. Okay? Now, let me just wrap this up by telling you one last thing, and then, okay? And then that's why, like, for those of you who haven't received the key, the Coptic key, you should come here tonight. You got to correct a serious misunderstanding. It doesn't make any difference how old you are. It doesn't make any difference how young you are. You should correct a serious misunderstanding. The Word of God is portrayed as a book. If you see a person, they'll say, I live on the Word. I devour the Word. I'm into the Word. I got the Word, and I got the Word. And the thing is, they got a book. A book has a problem, because a book can be changed. Do you know how many versions of this word there are? Yes. And every one of them is different. Yes. Which means it cannot be, quote unquote, the Word of God. All right? So that's the first thing. And so you'll see people who will open this book and say, you should do this. Why? Because it says so in the Bible. Which Bible? Which Bible? I've had people come in and challenge me, and I remember I had a couple of guys sitting down there, and they were challenging me, and one kid said to me, it says here, thus, the Lord says here, blah, 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 and the other kid says to him, where's that? That doesn't say that in mine. Jeez, mine doesn't say. Of course it doesn't say that, because they're all different. Now let's just look at this and understand it. You have to understand. The New Testament of the Bible is written in Greek. In Greek. That's where the origin of the word comes from. In Greek. It says, now if you look in John chapter 1 verse 14, it said the Word was made flesh and dwelt amongst us. Most people think that means the Bible turned into Jesus, or the Bible turned into God, or the Bible turned into the Word, or Jesus was the Bible. The Greek word is not word. It is logos. And logos means several things. But one thing it does not mean is word. And I'll tell you what logos means. I want you to hold this up for me. Just hold it in your hand for a second and take a look at it, all right? Logos means, okay, order, pattern, proportion, reason. Order, pattern, proportion, reason. It means the universe. It means all that encompasses. It means everything that is part of the existence of life in an orderly pattern, built in proportion to work together in harmony. It means harmony. It does not mean word. Logos means harmony, proportion, order. Pattern became flesh and dwelt amongst us. You are logos. There is a pattern. There is a proportion. There is a harmony. And when you bring yourself in harmony with what you have in your hand there in the galaxies, then you start to understand what this thing called God is. Then you start to realize, wait a minute, the entire order of this universe was made flesh. In other words, part of it was the actual manifestation of life inside of a body. Now I understand what this is. It has nothing to do with a book of writings. Nothing to do with the book. When you translate the Greek into the Latin of the Dark Ages, logos became verbum, which meant word. That's where it came from. But it's not what was intended, because it is not. It's logos. And logos means pattern, harmony, proportion, reason. It means setting forth the natural order of things, the understanding of reason, of natural harmony, the science of the cosmos, of the human mind. It is the order of the universe. It is 888, which is the sun, which is the all-encompassing Alpha and Omega, everything. And it is inside of you. That is why you have inside of you in your abdomen something called solar plexus. It's the place of the sun. And that's why in the Bible, what happens to Jesus in the Bible? He is born of a virgin. In September, the Son is born of a virgin. He's crucified. December 21st, the Son goes through a cross called the Southern Cross. He's in the tomb 3 days and 3 nights. December 22nd, 23rd, and 24th is the winter solstice. He's born again on December 25th. The sun moves in its trajectory. 30 years after his birth, he goes into the waterman John. 30 days after December 25th, the Son goes into the waterman Aquarius. He goes on to select his disciples from fishermen. The Son goes into the sign of Pisces, the fish. He becomes the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world. The Son enters Aries that takes away the cold of the winter. He sits at the right hand of the Father. In the northern hemisphere, the sun moves to the eastern sky or the right side, and summertime comes. He becomes the Lion of Judah. The sun enters the sign Leo, and it becomes the Lion, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. All of these things are the sun, the universe, the logos, proportion. Because inside of you, when you crucify the flesh through your meditation, when you separate from the thoughts and the pineal gland opens and the melatonin begins to flow, that which is the solar energy down here begins to rise just like that does. As a result of the crucifixion, it raises itself up to the pineal gland of the brain, which is Aries, and then it kicks over to the right hemisphere of the brain, and summer comes to your life. Spring comes to your life. All things become new, and the winter of your soul gives way to the newness of the summer of your life, and things begin to explode into life and rationalization and understanding, even to the point where you can come to grips with the fact that Jesus was the Logos, the 888, the all-encompassing universe, which means I understand now why he says, you will find me inside of you. And the things I have done, you can do, because I am the Logos, you are the Logos, we are all the Logos. We have no reason to blow each other up. We are all 801. We are all Alpha and Omega. So the Logos is not the Word, it's not the book, it's not the Bible. It was a big mistake, and it is the reason that people blow each other up. But you don't have to be a part of it anymore. And I pray that you will no longer be a part of it. Thank you very much. And John will come on and we'll see you in a bit. Bye-bye. Here we go. We're going to discuss today the discovery of the sixth planet, which we're following very closely, not only from the standpoint of the fact that nature is performing tremendously in the change of the makeup of what's going on in the sky, but because of the impact it has on you as a person. It impacts your head, it impacts the way you think, impacts the way you feel, And so we're going to talk about that. But before we do, there's a couple of things that I thought might be worthwhile for us to look at in light of what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Violence and revolution. And we don't know. What is it? We don't know yet who blew up the Olympics and who blew up the plane. But they blew up. And there's a lot of you who may not be aware of the fact, and if you were here Tuesday night, I don't know how many of you were here Tuesday night, but if you were here Tuesday night, you heard me tell you to be careful. And the reason is because not only do you have people who have mental problems, and not only do you have people who are ticked off at you, and they are, And the reason they're ticked off at you is because of the religion you belong to. See? The same reason that you're ticked off at them is because of the religion you belong to. Church that you were raised in, church of your parents that told you, oh, we're the right way, we're all saved, and everybody else is wrong. Right? You have something else on top of all of this, and you have a planet which is now chugging in and spinning in a different direction than all the others, and it's called Uranus, and it's a planet of revolution. It just changes, it turns everything upside down, including your head. And you start thinking the way you do. But when you talk about violence in a society and violence that you've seen, I mean, here are people standing around a rock concert and the thing blows up. And it wasn't just blowing up to make a noise. There were nails and all kinds of stuff that blew up with the express purpose of killing people. And what they said this morning about the airplane, the 800 TWA, is that it would appear that the front part of the plane blew away first, leaving all the passengers sitting in this thing, and done with that. So, I mean, why is this happening? Martin Luther King made a statement that I think it's interesting and it's worthwhile for you to consider. He said, violence is the voice of the unheard. Violence is the voice of the unheard. It's like when you tell a kid, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm not interested. You do what I say, and so forth. It's a problem. It's exactly the same thing, because let's us say, well, they say Muslims blew up the World Trade Center. Why? Why did they do that? Just because they had nothing else to do? Wanted to see if the bomb would work? Obviously not. There was a reason they blew up. Who blew up the plane? Why did whoever blow up the plane blow up the plane? And unless you get to the point where you're willing to sit down and talk to one another, you're never going to know. And the next plane may be the one you're in, or the next building may be the one you're in, because people are going to keep blowing people up until finally either Uranus stops it or we stop it. So there's a terrible group mentality. And whatever group you belong to does not like the other group. And whatever group they belong to does not like your group, and eventually it springs into violence. We have chosen the Judeo-Christian heritage. And the Arab and the Muslim have little or no place at our table. We are not interested. It's okay for us to have the Marines selling, you can join the Marines at the airport, but don't let the Hare Krishnas come in with flowers. That's very offensive. Join the Marines, go over, learn how to kill people. It's okay. Guys coming in, Hare Krishna, get out, oh, this is dangerous to me. I can't stand this. Because you don't like them. And the reason you don't like them is because you've been told not to like them by your Judeo-Christian heritage. Your church, your pastor, your priest, your minister said, these people are evil. They're going to lose your salvation. Our chosen people. Churches make trips to the Holy Land. They do. You can get one. Your church is probably, or whatever church you used to go to, go to the Holy Land. It's anything but holy. You can go to the Holy Land. Moses is our leader, got everybody across the Red Sea. But why are they? Let's just focus on the Muslims for a minute, the Arabs for a minute. So why are they ticked off at you? Why are they ticked off? Do you have a Bible in your hand? Because I want everybody in this room just to look at what I'm going to show you. Because you're not going to believe this. You are not going to believe this. You are not going to believe where your Christian, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish heritage is based. You will not believe it, but nonetheless, it's a fact. It's true. And you should never be afraid. You should never be afraid to look at something and say, Jesus, is this true? I mean, did this really happen? Here's what you've chosen, okay? You're Christians. We have our traditional family heritage. And we are wonderful, and we're all saved, and Jesus loves us. The only thing is there are people blowing us up. And we have Arabs, and we have Muslims, and we have Jews, and we're on this side, and they're on that side. Okay. And you better look at this very seriously, because, there are people who are in the hospital now because they went to a concert And something happened. There was people that they don't know were mad at them and blew up a bomb. And there was people sitting in an airplane, a lot of like young kids who were going to go study French. And they're in oblivion now because there was something going on that it wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault, but they were in the middle of it. You're right in the middle of this thing. You're a target. You are a target. You want to go through the Lincoln Tunnel? Maybe. Maybe not. You're a target. Why are you a target? Why? What have you done that would make people mad at you? Say, just because you go to church? Yeah. Yes, just because you go to church. Why? Because what your church teaches. Now let me show you a beginning. Let me show you, here on this side we have our leader Moses. And let me show you how you justify things. Let me show you what this guy and us Christians and Jews did to these people. Okay? If you have one of those little Bibles, I want you to open up to page 147. Page 147. Just look at it. Just look at it with your own eyes. You know? Because I want you to see what your heritage, of which your religion is based. Your religion is based on this Bible. And I want you to see what it said. And we'll get into the question of the next planet in just a minute. But I need to show you this because there's something going on. You ask me if you would be ticked off if somebody did this to you. These are the instructions from God to our chosen leader, Moses, that he gave to our chosen people who form the basis of our religion and our Bible. And this is what they should do to the Muslims. Well, the Arabs. This is what his instructions are. It's in Numbers chapter 31. You see that? Look at verse 18. Here's the instructions to Moses when you go into a town, okay? This is what I want you to do. Verse 17. Therefore, kill every male among the little ones. In other words, kill all the little boys. And kill every woman that has known a man by lying with him. Any woman that's not a virgin, kill her. But all the women, children that have not known by a man by lying with him, keep them alive for yourself. That's your traditional family. That's your Christian, Judeo-Christian heritage. That's your Catholic, Baptist, Methodist, all of this stuff. That's just, oh, this is my religion. There's your, that's God's holy word. You've got it. What have you got in here? Brutalization of women, brutalization of children, pedophilia. Go ahead, take the kid out and rape the kid. Have them for yourself. Do whatever you want. That's in your. Is it in there, or did I make it up? Is it in there? Yeah. That's the word of God. God's holy word. Did your pastor ever tell you that was in there? Oh, no. Does the priest read this at Sunday morning, man? Oh. But it is. It is in there. And for thousands of years, this went on. And then the Arabs got ticked off because all their little kids were getting killed and all of their women were getting killed and all of these people were getting brutalized. They got mad. Would you get mad? I guess so. Go to page 156. And on page 156 is Deuteronomy chapter 3. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of stuff, but I just want you to get an idea, get a feel as to why some people are doing things that you can't understand. And the reason you can't understand is because your leaders have never told you what they did to cause these people to get so upset. Numbers chapter 3. Look at chapter 3. Look at verse 3. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 3. So the Lord our God, you know, these people are great. They always use God to justify the horrors that they do. The Lord our God delivered into our hands Og, the king of Sihon, and all his people, and we smote him until nothing was left, and we took all his cities. There was not a city which we didn't take. All of these cities were fenced and so forth and so on with walls. And verse 6, and we utterly destroyed them as we did unto Sihon, utterly destroying the men, women, and children of every city. It's your chosen people. Your religious heritage is based on this. This is the side your group chose. We love them. That's the Holy Land. Now, don't you think if God was going to give somebody a town, he would have said, look, Just sit there for have a hot dog, whatever. Yeah, you know, whatever you want to do. Smoke a little, drink or whatever. I'll go in and I'll just make everybody disappear. You can come in and have the whole place. No, our chosen people said he specifically told them to go in and kill all the kids. And not only kill all the kids and the women and everybody else, but take the little girls that, you know, are virgins and can have a good time. You know, you got to have something for fighting so hard. It's our chosen people. You wonder why you got a problem? You don't want people are ticked off at you. The reason they're ticked off at you is because you're part of the group that did this. See, that's your heritage. That's your tradition. So, oh, this is the way we want it. See, let's do just go to page 192. Book of Joshua. Joshua chapter 6. And in Joshua chapter 6, it says in verse 21, this is Joshua. Get this. And they utterly destroyed all that was in the city, man and woman, young and old, as well as the animals. Everything. Kill it all. Rip it apart. Pillage it. Kill it. You're on page 192. Go to page 194, and this is the last one, I promise you. Joshua chapter 8. So you're at verse 8? Look at verse 24. Is this nice? And it came to pass when Israel made an end of the slaying and so forth, they chased them and they found them all in the field. So, but look at verse 25. And so it was that all that fell that day, both of men and women, were 12,000. So they killed them, men and women, 12,000. So the hate and the violence continued, and then of course we had the Catholic Church. And they followed up on it, and they decided that these evil people who wouldn't give us everything we wanted, we were going to eliminate them, so they started something called the Crusades. And you know what the Crusades were? The Crusades had one thing in mind: kill Arabs, kill Muslims. And they went down with their swords drawn, charge! The only thing is, by that time, the Arabs were tough. See, it's like the guy said, we created a God named Jehovah that said, take the Arabs' land away. So by that time, they had created a God named Allah, said, get it back. And they started fighting back. So you raped and you pillaged and you killed and you murdered and you slaughtered for thousands of years. You took everything away from them and you ran them out of the desert and you brutalized their children, and now they're ticked. And what is the matter with these? Are horrible people. These are terrible people. Look what they're doing. You better sit down and talk to them and find out why they're carrying this chip around their shoulder, because this is your holy book. This is the Word of God. Right. It says we're pretty scuzzy. And as our mindset, you know, when I was a kid, you know what I used to do? I went in the movies. You used to go to kid when you were in the movies. It used to be 11 cents to get in the movies. I went to the movies and watch, and I always watched John Wayne would come. There's the Indians. And as soon as John Wayne came with the cavalry, we'd get up and cheer, yeah, kill the savages. We didn't know. But you see, we were conditioned. The brain was washed by the system. Our religious institutions and the government taught us that the Indians were the savages. We didn't realize that the guys in the blue suits were a bunch of hop-headed, drunken bums who were doing some very violent thing against good people. Good, nature-loving people who were destroyed. And we cheered. We used to play, we used to fight all the way going back from walking from the Stanley Theater in Newark all the way back to where I lived in East Times. We used to walk, and we used to be shooting each other all the way down, and some poor guy would have to be the Indian. Well, we did. We were conditioned to that. So we've been controlled by violent religions and systems. We've been in bondage to guilt and fear and violence, and we paid for this. And how do we pay for it now? We have to take pills for the mind and drugs for the soul. You want the traditional, these people want the traditional family? Don't even think about it. It's an evil. And the only thing that the traditional family exists for is to put down women and to control women. That's all it's existing for. Otherwise, it's a horror. They want the woman to stir soup her husband goes out, oh dear, I've got this wonderful career. I'll be flying all over, and I'll be doing sales work in Panama, and I'll be working computers in Ireland and all of these places. Oh dear, this is wonderful. Isn't this great? While she's in there stirring the soup and the socks and the kids spitting on the floor and all this stuff. But this is it, kid. And you don't dare say nothing because this is the traditional family, see. It's the way we did it. I know it's the way we did it. Believe me, I lived it. I saw it. My mother made meatballs and spaghetti. First all she her career was make meatballs and spaghetti. Nowadays, it's kind of tricky nowadays with meatballs and spaghetti. Make ziti. That's the one thing I know. If you like ziti, go to a funeral. After they invite you back, everybody has ziti. That's all it is, ziti. But see, now you have a situation that as bad as this is, and I'm trying to show you, the only reason I showed you, because this is your holy word of God. This is your Bible. And this says in your Bible that you did very violent, terrible things. A lot of pedophilia, a lot of child abuse, a lot of killing little children. And you did all of this and made it God's work and said, this is the word of God. And you get the guys up and they pray over this and then they kiss this and all of this. And imagine kissing when you're telling somebody to go out and rape and pillage little kids and you pick up the, oh, I love it. What is that? What the heck's the matter with you? It's like kissing, maybe you're better off kiss Playboy. Playboy doesn't say things like this. Playboy does not tell you to go out and brutalize women and little kids. So we'll have you have them. Hey, why not? But the thing is, I showed it to you, and it's true. So you have to sit down, you have to go to the Arabs, and you have to go to these other people, whoever does, and you have to say, geez, hey, what are we going to do to make this right? And they're going to say, we better choose your friends a little differently. Because, where do you live? You have a house? Any of you people live in a house? All right, say some of you live in a house. And say, I get Joe here. And Joe says, I'm taking your house. Ruth, get the heck out of your house. And Joe moves in, and you're out in the street with a bag, walking down the street with a bag. So what do? I call up Joe, hey, I heard you got a new house. I'm going to give you some money to help furnish it. I'm going to help him furnish your house. Are you going to be happy with me? No. And you might even throw a few Scud missiles in my living room, and I wouldn't blame you. I can understand it. So this is what we've done. So don't be so shocked when you hear about this stuff. You've got a legacy of violence and hate that you've rode right into church, and now you give credit to God. This is God gave you all. Let me tell you something. All right? When you think about this, everything was one up to a point of Abraham, and then they split off, and this became the Muslims, and this became the Jews and the Christians, and so forth and so on. And it was based on the fact of Isaac being the firstborn. Isaac wasn't the firstborn. And it says that what belongs to God is the firstborn. What was the guy's name? Ishmael was the firstborn, and he is the father of the Muslims. And he was the firstborn, not yours. Because Abraham shacked up with a lady down the street. And that's the name of that tune, as they say. And so in right back, they took him up to the mountaintop and they got the knife over Isaac, and God says, don't do that! Everyone thought, well, God's being a nice guy. No, he's saying you get the wrong guy. You don't sacrifice that. Well, no, did anybody ever tell you that? No. So anyhow, so the story now is being written in the stars as well as being written in the mines and being written in blood and being written in bombs, because your governments are only saying we got to find these people, we got to prosecute these people, we got to punish these people. But you better sit down and say, we better sit down with these people and find out who they are and why they are doing what they're doing. And then look back and have the guts to admit we have been wrong. Regardless of who your friends are, we have been wrong. And you better start making up some of the horrors that we brought upon people. It's just like we did with black people in this country. We didn't pay a bit of attention until they started burning the cities down, did you? Yeah, there was no civil rights movement until they started burning the cities down. All then you started paying attention. Maybe we better do something. Maybe it's not healthy for people to live in squalor and with rats and not have jobs, and maybe it's not good. It's unfortunate that... And you know something? We had a fellow who used to come, there was a black fellow that came to this church named Dave Preston. He used to tell us that they used to have segregated churches in Atlantic City back in the 50s. Glory to God, praise the Lord. They're all singing, Amazing Grace, what a wretch. Like, they are wretches. They should sing that song. So anyhow, we look at this eve of destruction that you're in now, and then we start tracing back what's going on in the sky. And this is something, there's a lot of young people here. Look at this. It's interesting. It's nothing to do with religion. It has to do with the sky. It has to do with the stars. It says in October 1995, they found the very first sun star ever in the history of the world that was orbited by a planet. In other words, you had the sun and you had a planet going around that. And that's never happened before, say. Never happened before in the history of the world. And yet we understand this is exactly the way we work. We have a sun, and then we have the earth, and we orbit around. Now they found another one. But what makes that interesting is the fact that the book of Revelation says that what you would see as a sign of something really spectacular going to happen, and it is happening, is that something would occur in the sign of the white horse. Go to page, 1013. And in 1013, Revelation chapter 19. Revelation chapter 19. You know. And in Revelation chapter 19 and verse 11, it says, And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him was faithful and true. In October 1995, for the first time in the history of the world, they discovered a sun just like ours, a duplicate of our sun, with a planet circling around it, and it was in the sign of the white horse, Pegasus. Pegasus. So this is exciting, see? Now there's something interesting about Pegasus. Pegasus is the horse in mythology that was ridden by Zeus. And Zeus had this like knapsack on the side of Pegasus, and he'd stick lightning bolts. And if he had to zap you, Cheryl, he'd say, oh, I'm going to get that, Cheryl, and he'd zap you right with a lightning bolt. Okay. And then in the Bible, Jesus says, wisdom comes like lightning from the east to the west. And so we have Pegasus. So this, in October 1995, the first planet around a sun star was found in Pegasus. In other words, it's happening right over your head right now, okay? Now, understand something. This is a sign. It does not necessarily, there's no horse in the sky. You do know there's not a horse in the sky. Yes. You got a problem? All right, is that better? Okay, there's no horse in the sky, so we're looking at a sign. So now we need to look at another sign. How do we know that this has any connection to the Bible? How do we know it has any connection to the things that we've always been taught and so forth and so on? How do we know that this means a connection to like the Jesus myth and all of that stuff? It's contained in page 583, the book of Isaiah. I hate to keep you jumping around, but it won't be too long. The book of Isaiah, page, what did I say, 583, in Isaiah chapter 7, okay? Before you leave here today, I'm going to tell you about yourself, personally and physically, and Uranus. And you can check your body when you get home. You say, what the heck is this guy? This guy's really whacked out. Yeah, I know. Isaiah chapter 7, and here it is. Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. Therefore the Lord shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive. The second sun star that was found in the constellation Virgo, the Virgin. Number 2. But what's it mean? It means that this is the sign that now is the time when people should begin to practice that which is the virgin mind. That's what it's saying to you. It is the time that you should start meditating. Because you're a basket case. Your head is a monkey jungle. And there's monkeys swinging all over the place. And some of you are sitting right now as you're sitting in this room, in this chair, and your head, the monkeys are swinging all over the place, and you're getting all these bizarre thoughts. And it's not because you're looking at me. Half of you right now haven't a clue what the heck I'm talking about because you are inside watching a movie in your head. And the movie involves you and some pretty weird things going on. Could you imagine if I asked everybody to stand up and tell me, what are you thinking right now? Other than if you say something about me. But when I say, what's going on in your head? You couldn't deal with that. What did you think all week, you know? Your parents, your family would run you out of the house. My God, I didn't know I was living with such a person. Because this is in your head, all this stuff. So Virgo says, plug into this. This is the time now to plug into this, into meditation. And then the third one comes, and it's Ursa Major, the third planet that they discovered. Ursa Major. And Ursa Major is the big bear and the little bear. It is Arcus, who is the little bear, who is the North Star. And this is the story of the mother and the child. And the mother saying, follow the child. And who is the child? The child is within you. The child is the wounded child inside of you. The child is the one inside of you that has been beaten up by your parents, beaten up by the system, beaten up by religion, beaten up by the law. All of these things which have banged you over the head all of your life. There's a wounded child inside of you. And this is saying, the mother, who is your divine spirit, is saying, follow the child. Follow the child of promise within inside of you through the virgin consciousness. And it's appropriate that Arcus is the North Star because people have followed the North Star because it is the navigational star. You see? And then they found the fourth one. And the fourth one was in Cancer. And in Cancer is the sign of Precipe, which is the manger, and Acillus, which is the donkey. And basically what is being said is you start to follow this, that which is your stubborn nature, the donkey, will bring you to the place of the birth of the child, which is the manger, which is in the middle of all of the animal instincts that rage inside of your head all day long. That cause you to scream, and that cause you to rant and rave, and that cause you to throw things, and it cause you to feel the way you do. And this is talking about you. Because you see, I mean, whether anybody believes or listens to me is totally 100% irrelevant because this is happening in the sky over your head right now. It's the same as getting on that airplane going to France that those people did on 800. They were going to have a good time. They never got 10 miles outside of the airport. Then they went into oblivion. Don't even exist. Absolutely gone. What? How? It's not possible. And I'm telling you the things that you're looking at me saying, well, this is not possible. Not only is this possible, this is happening right now. You can get on this on the internet and track this thing. And then we talked last week that they found the fifth one. And the fifth one is Boots. The constellation Boots. The star, the sun star, the planets found a Boots. And Boots is the guy holding a sickle in his hand. Boots is the guy holding the sickle in his hand. And he symbolizes the strength. In other words, something is coming down on you, your family, your house, your country, your school, your systems, religion. Everything is coming down, and it's got a sickle in his hand. And what's the sickle used for? Cut the weeds away. And what are the weeds? The weeds are the things that you're thinking right now that are ticking you off. The weeds are the things that have been growing inside of your head that's gotten all of confusion. I can't see anything because of all the damn weeds. And so here comes this Boots, and if you go to page 1010 again, just for a minute, you see it in Revelation chapter 14. And in Revelation chapter 14, verse 14, it says, and I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one like the Son of Man having a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. In other words, here's the strength coming upon the earth now. And so you have 5. Think of it as like the 7 chakras and all that stuff, but you have 5. So now you're coming to number 6. So this virgin mind, so in other words, Virgo has discovered the virgin mind brings you to the point of the child within yourself, which is Ursa Major, that which is the donkey, that which is your stubborn nature, takes you to the birth of the child of promise, which is that 4th star, which is Cancer. And now the child grows, and in the mythology, Arcus, the North Star, grew, and according to the mythology, became Boots. And so the child has grown and is now coming back. Say, it's written there. I'm going to say, oh, well, I don't know if that's what it means. Well, you don't know if that's what it means. But what if it is what it means? And all you have to do is start paying attention to yourself. The heck with what anybody in the world says to you. Start paying attention to yourself. What is coming on within yourself and in meditation. So the child grows strong, and now Boots appears, and the strength is coming from the universe. And now here, in July of this year, they found the 5th sun star with a planet orbiting around it in the constellation
6.
So I said, in 6. In the constellation Andromeda. Andromeda. Andromeda is the chained woman. And don't think that that is unusual, because that's exactly what all of you have been subjected to all of your life. And the one with the sickle, the one with the power, is coming to break the chains. Now, understand what this stuff means metaphysically. Metaphysically, the word woman means emotions and spirit. And the emotional nature, the spiritual nature of all of us has been in bondage to these damnable religions and institutions of the world, which has created all of this problem. This woman, Andromeda, is stripped naked. And the fact of being naked means we are exposed to all the garbage that comes out of the mouths of people who profess to be our instructors. We are exposed to all of this stuff constantly. And this is why you feel the way you do. And she is chained, which means she's in bondage, and she is chained to a rock near the raging sea. And the raging sea are the thoughts that come through your mind all the time. And she is given as a sacrifice to the sea monster Cetus, C-E-T-U-S, who is the monster. And basically she is placed there by her father, which is your mind. So in other words, your mind at a point where it can no longer deal with all of the crap that you have to deal with that comes to you from all over the place, it gives up, and it's ready just to sacrifice itself and become one with all of this bizarre stuff. And the monsters that are within us become the monsters that are without. And some of these people who cannot control that monster act out these monstrous things right in front of you and blow people up. Because they've been chained all of their life. They've been in bondage all of their life. Nobody would listen to them. And they're just there waiting upon that raging emotional mess for this monster to totally overwhelm the mind, and they just give themselves up to it. And that's what she is. So she's chained to a rock as an offering, and this is the basis of the Jesus story. He's nailed to the cross as an offering. It's human sacrifice is what the basis of it is. But basically what it is that each one of us have been exposed and are exposed to all of this horror that comes from the outside, to the point where we are now ready to be devoured by the monsters of our own mind and the monsters of the mind of other people. Don't forget, the people that are your instructors are the people that dropped the atomic bombs. The people that are telling you how to behave and how to live are the people that brutalized, raped, and pillaged these very people of the Bible. They're your instructors. They're telling you how to be a traditional family. Get back to our traditional biblical values. Sorry. So here she is, and this is the 6th one. It is amazing to me. And the 5th one, to see that coming in strength, Boots coming in strength with that sickle last week, and now this one, who is the woman who is you and me, who are chained at the mercy of the emotions and the mercy of all of these monstrous thoughts which go through our mind, which come from others. So we're in bondage to the mind, devoured by the monsters in our heads, and we act it out in our aggressive ways to other people. So here comes Boots with his sickle. Here comes Boots ready to break those chains. Here comes that strength that's coming down from the angles of electricity. In the drama, She's chained to this rock. The monster is about to come and devour her. But she looks up, and here comes this warrior. And his name is Perseus. And he's got a sword drawn, and he's swooping down to set her free. And he's riding on the back of the white-winged horse, Pegasus. The horse of the book of Revelation, who said, behold, heaven opened up. And remember something. The same winged white horse that this woman in chains saw coming to set her free is the same winged white horse that was shown again in October 1995, swooping down to set you free, if you're interested. So the turmoil, the upheaval, Aquarius, and all of these things that are going on, all you have to understand how to do. You know, when you have a raging storm at sea, no big problem for the captain. Why? He knows how to handle the ocean. For me, bad news. Why? Because I don't know what to do. So basically, that's where you're at. And I mean, and I've tried to tell you what's going on. I'm going to tell you one thing now, as we continue to monitor these things. I'm going to tell you something about yourself. All right? There's a guy named Jeff Green. Jeff Green wrote a book called Uranus. What does it do to you? Now, what I'm about to tell you does not mean you're going to get any of these diseases. I don't want you running out of here saying, I'm going to get these diseases. You're not. But what I'm going to tell you is where you have, according to Green and according to people that understand the workings of Uranus, each person has a weakness in their body that is affected and can be affected by Uranus. It's just things that you have to be aware of. You may get something else. I mean, I might say, well, you could get this, or you might get acne. I mean, who the heck knows? I mean, but what I am saying to you is, just think about it. Just consider it. And you may get a little thing. Might just a little bit. But Uranus, according to Jeff Green, remember this. In Jesus in the Bible says the kingdom of heaven is at hand. In the Bible, the Greek word for heaven is Uranus. So actually, what it's saying in the Bible is the kingdom of Uranus is at hand. Okay? Which is true. Now, the Uranus effect, according to Jeff Green, is this. Quote Green, Uranus is forever trying to shatter, revolutionize, break all conditioning patterns and traditions. 75% of people resist Uranus. But remember, what Uranus has come to do with your head is decondition and reprogram it. You either submit to it and flow with it, or it'll knock your head off your shoulders. It's like I told you a long time. If I'm standing down at the beach and a big wave comes and I say, hey! You turn around, you get a surfboard, you get on top of it, you hang 10, you're having a good time. But if I don't tell you that, and it hits you, you're eating sand. A lot of people are going to be eating sand, and you see it happening. You see it happening all over the place. So, I mean, you know, take it for what it's worth. So, what about your body? Let me just tell you what Uranus has a tendency to touch in different people. Okay? That's all I'm saying. If you're an Aries, the hypothalamus, pituitary glands, eye problems, headaches, ringing in the ears. Okay? If you're a Taurus, kidneys, headaches, urinary tract infections, gallbladder, throat infections. If you're a Gemini, insomnia, fatigue, lung congestion, breathing difficulties, nervousness. You're a Cancer, I can attest to this, digestive system, stomach problems, teeth problems, and if you're a female, ovary problems. If you're a Leo, your heart, blood pressure, fatigue. If you're a Virgo, psychological, insomnia, fatigue, deep stress, worry. If you're Libra, ear problems, lower back, adrenal glands. Your Scorpio, the pancreas, the colon, viruses. Sagittarius, the thyroid, pituitary gland, legs, and feet. Capricorn, arthritis, tooth enamel, calcium deficiency, skin eruption. Aquarius, nervousness, spine disorders, skin disorders, numbness in body parts. And Pisces, endocrine system, the immune system, skin problems. And the reason I just go over that with you is to let you know that you live on a planet. Your head is filled with wires that are electric in nature. Your whole thing is run by electricity. And what I'm talking about here is that fact that the electrical patterns in the Earth are being changed by the fact that the angles are changing as a result of this new age, the result of the repositioning of these planets, which subject you simply to different things as far as electricity. And I wanted to give you your very own autographed picture of Andromeda, and I forgot to do it, so could you take care of this and get it out to everybody so that you'll have a picture of Andromeda, which is the 6th planet. And let me have one of those here. Could you hold that for him? Thank you. Okay. And that's Andromeda, and that's the story we told you today about Andromeda, Perseus, and Joni. Have nothing new about number 7 or anything like that other than that HD number that we looked at? Well, you got them all, so keep looking. But it's if you're willing to put together, is that all right? Can you get a picture of that?
Got it perfect right there.
Okay, that's Andromeda. All right, so you can go out and get your own picture of Andromeda. Don't write me letters now saying send me pictures of Andromeda. Get your own picture of Andromeda. But anyhow, think about what we've discussed today. Think about what's being written in the stars and understand how it affects you. Okay, and then that'll be that. All right, thank you. Everybody's got those things, and we'll keep tuning ourselves into what's going on, and who knows, what'll happen next week or where we'll go next week, but it'll be interesting. So planet number 6 has been discovered. And let me tell you one other thing. You ready for this? Everybody ready? I found a very, very interesting thing about that. The symbol, the Coptic key, very interesting, okay? Very interesting. As they say, what was that? That was a great joke you had, John. What was that? The Buddhist said to the Buddhist said to the hot dog guy, "Make me one with everything." All right, I like that. That was good. Okay, we'll see you, and you get back.